And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
All right, good morning to everyone. Hello, it's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel, joined by Steve, Whiskey 7, United Delta India. How are you? You got a haircut?
Yeah, I got the number one.
You got the high and tight, man.
High and tight.
You can still do it over here and in the back.
Oh, yeah. Got back here, and it's good for my wife. She can buff her nails, so that's the test. If she can buff her nails, then the haircut's short enough.
I could grow enough hair to make myself look weirder. Like I can go here and like in the back, and it would just go clownish. It'd go really clowny, and I
could do the same thing too.
Life is hard enough to do it like that.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, great kickoff this morning during the pre-show meet and greet. We kicked off K4P, which is Kilo 4 Papa, the special event station, raising awareness for a ham radio operator in need. Phil has been a ham since 1971. He's desperately in need of a living kidney donor. He's on 5 lists otherwise, but there's a lot of benefits to being able to organize and logistics for a living donor. And he's got a call. We just had a call earlier. I think it was Tuesday. I could be wrong. Maybe it was Monday or Tuesday. But he got a call from the University of Toledo, and they had a potential match for him. And so everybody's excited. And then, it's like it didn't work out. So it's kind of a bummer in that way. But anyway,
there's still progress. I mean, it was potential match is good. I mean, there's hope.
Yeah, for sure. We have a guest today I'm excited about. Becky's here. Whiskey 1 Bravo X-Ray Yankee. She's here. And she handles a lot of the publication stuff for the league.
Nice.
So you need to behave yourself. And yes, I cannot keep a lady waiting. So, you're out of here.
I'm out of here.
You must leave now. So send my best to the chat. And thanks for everybody for coming over. If it's your first time here, poke around the channel, subscribe if you like it. And there's some good playlists there, Q&A, and we'll get back to Steve here in a little bit. We'll answer some questions if we can. All right, Steve. See you later.
We'll see you in a bit.
You must leave now. There she is. There she is. The ladies on the show. It's my favorite thing. Hey, Becky, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Christian?
I'm just having fun. Saturday's like that most anticipated day of the week. Friday is like Friday, but you don't get, the evening is short. So Saturdays are good.
Yeah.
How are things at HQ?
Busy, always busy. When you work in publishing, particularly magazine publishing, it's just, an ever turning cycle. We've always got several magazines cooking. We usually have a bunch of books cooking at the same time too. So, business as usual, busy.
So you've been around since 2011, right? 2011 at the league.
Yeah.
And, this publication, I mean, in your hands sits like 105 years of, right? It's like QST. It's not a big thing at all, is it?
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of 100-plus-year-old magazines left in this day and age. And so ARL and the ham radio community really have something special in QST. Its history is revered just as much as its present incarnation is. So it is a great honor to be, the custodian of QST and to be part of this team that brings it to life every month.
Well, let's talk about, because you've got several things cooking now. You've not only got that great history, but you've started off something new with On the Air, which I like quite a bit. I think it's kind of nice to tap back into our roots a little bit because, you can get to several layers. This is why I think it's so important that you've kind of I don't even know what that beeping is. There's some message. I've got something open where we're messaging. I think it's
I don't hear it.
You didn't hear it? Oh, good. Maybe it's just in my mind, which is probably the case.
All in your head.
So it's totally it's a problem. I've got a lot of problems, as you'll see. So you've got this great history there. And it's, for me, when I just got started, it was so heady in a way, and I know there's such super technical people, and I'm not one of them. I kind of know what I know. And each year I learn a little bit more. So that magazine to me could be, it's so interesting to know that there are so many people out there that are like you, but it is a little over my head sometimes, if I'm being completely honest. And then tell me about like those talks to bringing in a new magazine. Is it, I mean, it's a little daunting to just keep one going so well, but then to bring in another one. How did you find a balance between what you needed to do and what you had?
Well, the need for On the Air has, it's been there all along. ARL has always been getting emails, phone calls, people walk up to us at events and say, I love QST. Thanks for doing that. But, a lot of it is over my head. And even folks who had been in the hobby for decades and decades, I love it. Thanks a lot. But it's just beyond me. And then we had, bona fide beginners in the hobby that were just saying, we need something. We need something to bring us along. And we had tried things for beginners before. We had tried several times, sometimes as a section of QST. And, with varying degrees of success and nothing that really had a whole lot of longevity. So On the Air's beginnings were back in 2017 with a bunch of discussions among a small group of ARRL managers who said, we've got to finally address this group, the new hams that are just, sort of crying out in the wilderness. We're in a position to offer them something, but we can't do what we've done before because obviously that didn't work. So we did a bunch of surveying. We did some testing. We created On the Air initially as a test piece and said, if we did something like this, what do you think of that? And people loved it. New hams and experienced hams alike really loved it. So we took a couple of years to develop the idea and kind of bide our time for the right time to launch something new. And On the Air debuted January 2020. And it's been going like gangbusters ever since. So as far as how to balance that, part of the balance is in the publishing schedule. I mean, QST is a monthly. It's there every month, like clockwork. ARL publishes 4 magazines, and QST is the only monthly. On the Air, QEX, and NCJ are all bi-monthly. So that scheduling is part of how all of that works. There's a bit of a staggering, and there's also a little bit of overlap among the various staffs of those magazines, but there's also a lot of difference between them too, which also helps. So nobody gets overloaded except me. and our production people. We have 2 production people who lay out, almost everything that comes out of ARL on, printed on paper. And those 2 people, Shelley Bloom and Jody Morin, just produce a tremendous amount of layout and design work. And they somehow never manage to get overloaded either. They're just fantastic.
Well, I have issues of QST from like the 40s, and the technology and the science still holds up. There are new things that happen now, but there's some of that old ways still work. Is it refreshing to have a new magazine to kind of give you a new set of tools and a new set of topics, because the old ones have, they still hold up?
They do still hold up, and there's always a lot of talk at ARL about, our legacy material, our tremendous library of old stuff that's still perfectly good. And there are things in On the Air that have been repurposed from some old stuff. Nothing quite as old as the 40s yet, but it could happen. And yet it is nice to be creating all new things for this new publication, and getting the new part of the community excited about stuff.
What did your survey turn up that may have surprised you a little bit?
The survey confirmed a lot of things that we had suspected. And I think the most surprising thing was that people wanted to use ham radio as a means to other ends. They told us they didn't necessarily want to become contesters or pursue DX. A lot of them wanted to just be able to understand the technology and how to use it well enough that they could apply it to other things. That didn't necessarily mean getting on the air. Can I use this to build a weather station? A lot of them wanted to be able to use radio in other parts of their lives, in leisure time with their families, without necessarily, how can I do this around my family so that I can get them all licensed and we can all contest together on the weekends? It was more of how can I use this technology to integrate it into my life more.
What's the classic ham pursuit? I've heard you talk about this before. Is it different nowadays? Like you mentioned, sort of these adjacent things. Is it emergency communications, public service? What is your classic ham pursuit today? And has that changed from the past?
Well, given the QST audience are the classic hams. The DXers, the public service hams. One of the most surprising things that we found out in the 2017 survey was that the overwhelming majority of people who are getting licensed today, and a lot of people are getting licensed today, is because they want to be involved in public service. And that surprised us a little bit because the role of, I'm not qualified to speak deeply on the role of ham radio in public service, but I know enough to know that it has changed a lot, even over the past 20 years. But that is still a huge draw for people, absolutely enormous. So there's a need to fill with information there too. But when we talk about classic ham pursuits, when I talk about classic ham pursuits, I'm still very much talking about the QST audience, DXing, sort of whole weekend contesting, and public service. It does look like portable has become really huge in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. Portable might be poised to become the new classic. I get a lot of manuscripts about portable operating. There are all the programs now. There's, SOTA, POTA, IOTA, all of that just has gained so much traction. There's a lot of people talking about it in manuscript. So who knows, maybe we have a modern classic on our hands with portable.
Is that, that was around, but they used to do it with such big equipment back in those early days. Is that something you see more of in the future for On the Air magazine with portable?
We do. We've done a bit about portable in On the Air so far. We start them with the basics. What is portable operating? What is the Summits on the Air program? The most recent issue had, what is the Parks on the Air program? So we start out with just the facts, ma'am, just the basics, and say, this is something you can do. And there are people who do it. And when they do it, here's how they do it and why they do it. So now that we've presented a lot of those basics, the how and the why, in future issues, we'll move into more of, things like what's the basic gear? Mm-hmm. What are other tools for helping you how to do this? What are the, here's a list of resources.
So good foundation, and then sort of build off of that. I mean, that makes sense. How has digital affected print media? We know how it has worked traditionally with mainstream media, and it hasn't really been good, with everything moving online. How has it affected you guys?
It's been kind of up and down. There was, in fact, in terms of on the air, we had talked about, once we got the survey results that led to us creating On the Air, there was some talk about launching earlier than 2020. And the digital disruption at the time was such that I just was not confident that it was the right time to launch. And there was talk about launching digital only. And I said, I really don't think that's going to be the way to go. Ham radio operators really love print. Our guys love print. And we have a lot of digital only opt-ins, but there's still this overwhelming desire for having that print publication that you can really take anywhere and not have to worry about, do I have the issue downloaded to my device? Am I going to have a Wi-Fi connection? Overwhelmingly, we hear from folks, thanks for keeping this all in print. That's what I really want. That's what I really love. So we did end up holding off on releasing On the Air for a little bit because digital was making me nervous. And then in 2019, we looked at it again, and I said, print's on a more solid footing. Let's roll this out the way we originally intended, and here we are.
I mean, there's so many. I consider myself a streamer. I mean, with a broadcast background, this gives me the feel of FM radio, which is kind of my home, and it's immediate. So live streaming is something different for me than, say, the gobs and gobs of YouTube videos. Have you found a way to incorporate YouTube? Is there a plan for YouTube videos and a way to package content at all? Or is that just not your lane and publications is plenty?
I can say you will be seeing more videos out of ARRL. You will be seeing more videos associated with QST, certainly. I can't say a whole lot more at this point, but
are you sure?
I can't.
I
really can't. I would love to, and the people involved are kind of sitting on their hands at the moment too.
It just makes sense to me that a tremendous archive like that, but. I've made documentaries and have done history and all this stuff, and I just think if there's a collection there, there's something there. So I'm just curious. I understand your position.
There's stuff coming. Hopefully as soon as this spring. And I can't say anything yet.
Good, but that sounded like a promise to come back and tell me everything about it first and exclusive. Isn't that the way we should? Since we're best friends now. Okay, that's cool.
Very possibly.
Thank you so much for coming. I think what you do is amazing, your work. And I wanted to get into the infrastructure. I think you have to come back and talk about, maybe we have time to have another quick one. Do you have the capacity at the league to run both or all these publications at one time? Or do you have to kind of space it out here? This one goes here. This one goes here. Can they run together?
The production of them?
Yes.
The production of all 4 magazines is always running all the time.
Okay.
The in-house staff is very small. It's 7 people that push through a tremendous amount of work every day, week, month, year. But we also have freelancers. We have subject matter experts. Almost every department at ARRL headquarters contributes something to nearly every issue of QST. almost the whole building touches that publication. And, it is a building-wide effort, really. It's wonderful to see it come together every month. But, there's any number of people hustling on all 4 of these magazines all the time.
Yeah. Well, great. Thank you so much for coming. I do hope you'll come back. Appreciate the work that you do. And I enjoy the new magazine a lot. It if nothing else, I think it's good to get back to your roots, because there's always something.
Oh, yes.
Becky, Whiskey One. Bravo X-Ray Yankee, thanks so much for coming by. We'll chat with you again, I hope.
All right. Thanks for having me, Christian.
All right. 7-3.
The ICOM 705 is your perfect QRP companion, as you have base station features and functionality at the tip of your fingers. But it's in a portable package covering HF 6 meters, 2 meters, and 70 centimeters. This compact rig weighs in at 1 kilo or just over 2 pounds. With RF direct sampling for most of the HF band and IF sampling for frequencies above 25 megahertz. It's got that large 4.3-inch color touchscreen with live band scope and waterfall. And the perfect accessory for the IC705 is the optional backpack. It's the LC192. It has a special compartment for the IC705 and room for accessories for soda activations or just a day in the park. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all ICOM radios.
All right, friends, this is the portion of the show where we invite our friends from Amateur Radio Newsline, our colleagues from Amateur Radio Newsline, to pick 2 stories. One, perhaps you've heard or should have heard about, and another one maybe you have not heard about. Guys, tell me the truth. Was I sitting there like this, listening to her talk?
Yeah. She's good. She's good. I got to tell you, she's in an unenviable position. She juggles, and having spent years in print publishing, if I wore a hat this morning, I would have tipped it to her.
And I listened to I read the magazine and I listen to that on the air podcast. And even though I've been in this for 40 some years, it's good. And it does what they set out to. It really lays out clearly the entry level stuff for new hams in a way that's not frightening. Yeah.
Frightening is a good word. We're not, some geeks are born, other geeks are made.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that they're doing. I like it.
Paul was clearly born.
Paul was born to geek. Right. You should get BTG, Born to Geek.
Yeah. New T-shirt idea. We'll work on that one too. We need all the help we can get. Karen, can
wear the Pink Floyd shirt today.
Yeah, I dig it. It didn't go unnoticed. I appreciate your classic rock background, Karen. Just for a moment to talk about publishing. I was talking to Becky about the pressures of print media against the landscape of everything else. But I think it's a good point when well taken that people do like to have. I've printed out my manuals. I want to have it in my hand. I want to have it on a plane. So I still do like the physical. But for you in your career, you watch publishing kind of take it on the chin several times. You want to give a minute on that or two? Or
very quickly. I think as the readership of what's called the legacy media, the print, ages out, you have a generation that enjoys portability. They never worry about Wi-Fi connections because they have a very generous data plan. So they basically take their information with them everywhere. I have actually maintained a preference for print, but I'm gradually going over to the dark side because it is more convenient. But I've seen lots of my colleagues take either early retirement or a very timely retirement and just throw their hands up in the air because it's done. It's done with a few exceptions. You do have the big newspapers and some of the magazines, but almost everyone now has a digital presence. So,
and I've got to say, as far as QST and CQ, I do the digital ones because I just, after so many years, you just stacks of magazines that you may or may not go back to. So going back to the digital one and printing out a page if you need it seems to be, for me, an easier thing.
Oh, that's interesting. I go with the stacks. I actually, when I get free time, I will go into my stacks of magazines and I will read them. So you see, you have both of us represented here.
Yeah, and what I do is when I get physical copies, I'm done reading, I take them to VE sessions and we hand them out to new people taking exams.
It's so nice to have.
Yeah. Well, as tradition here on 100 Watts in a Wire, the lady gets priority, so Paul, you lose. So she's right. But hey, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I want to tickle him.
We like Paul. We're not ready to launch him into
I don't know.
yet. Once he's up there, we can talk trash about him.
I don't know. That's kind of strong words. I know. But anyway, my friends,
I'm used to that.
So we kick off with our format is we bring two stories to the table and we talk about one that may be front of mind, maybe front page, and the other one may be lesser known. Karen, what'd you find this week?
Okay, this one's real strange, but not uncommon because there have been other instances of this around the world and in the States. We all like to think our transmitters can have staying power. And here's a story of one that certainly did. You look behind me, you'll see the 14th Street Bridge in Washington, D.C. There was a transmission we wrote about this week that went on and on and on and on and on for the past 8 years, giving traffic reports of the 14th Street Bridge in D.C. and the general area during the inauguration. Well, wow. We're talking the inauguration of 2013, couple of years back, and basically telling people to avoid the bridge, that the inauguration was going on. And it was low power, and it was a transmission from a radio going out over the transmitter from the Department of Transportation in DC. People heard it, didn't really pay much mind to it. It's on AM. Some people still listen to AM. I like AM.
Me too.
And people were reporting it, but nobody did anything about it. And a very clever and caring faculty member at Georgetown University in DC called attention to it, tweeted about it. It caught the eye of the Homeland Security folks who tracked it down. And finally, on March 3rd, people were waiting for their traffic report from 2013. They no longer heard it because they turned the thing off and said, oh my God, what's happening on the bridge? It's gone. It's gone. Well, it's gone from the air. The faculty member managed to capture it as an MP3. And just as print has now gone digital, so too have some radio stations gone digital, and you can now hear the report if you care to on the internet. It plays and it plays and it plays, which is kind of funny.
Yeah,
it's a cool story, and it's just a reminder when you're done in the shack, turn off your transmitter.
What do you think, Paul?
I read the story when it first came out, and there was some thoughts about, because they would set up for events. They would set up it. Maybe it was in like a construction trailer type, thing with a mast antenna with solar panels, and it just kept going. Or occasionally they would tie them onto another tower in a neighborhood or whatever. He couldn't find an answer after it got shut off. Nobody would tell him what happened. It's just like, don't worry about it, we got it. So most likely it was just a trailer with solar panels parked somewhere. It was just long enough to keep that thing going for 8 years, just looping the same report over and over again.
It's either the worst street in America or the best street or the worst.
It's like, just stay off the bridge permanently. Don't ever go over the bridge.
It's the most confusing thing I've ever heard. Should I go? Should I not go? It never changes.
Radio keeps telling me to stay off the bridge.
And that's what's important, is that you're listening to your radio.
Always believe radio.
Yeah, radio over everything is right. Paul, what do you have interesting today?
Well, I have my background here represents the tracking information and data from a high-altitude balloon launch that recently happened. And this is from down in Australia, from the Amateur Radio Experimenters Group down in Adelaide. And they launched one called the Horus 55, which was interesting because it carried an amateur TV, a digital amateur TV transmitter. And the idea was to see how high it could go and how far it could go, and also how far away they could receive the video. And it launched on March 7th, and the flight duration was about 2.5 hours. It got up to 32,000 meters, which is about 104,000 feet, and it was broadcasting the whole way. And in fact, they if you go to the website, which is areg.org.au, they've got clips, video sent from it. They have one that shows when the balloon finally burst. You can the thing shows all the other pieces of the equipment that were all tethered together. So it shows the whole thing as it was coming down, and it was still transmitting when it landed. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I've got a friend around here who works with a local high school science program. And once a year, they try to launch just an APRS tracker on a balloon and see how far they can get and how high they can get. So that's really a fun thing, and it's very interesting tech. This one took it up another level by putting a video transmitter in it.
What do you think about this story, Karen?
Another little transmitter that wouldn't quit. I love it. If we have nothing else, we have thematic stories on Saturdays. I like the fact that these guys embody the spirit of experimentation, which is, of course, the heart and the soul of much of amateur radio. They not only were transmitting throughout a good part of the region in Australia, they also uploaded to the internet, and people were able to watch it on YouTube. So this just takes it once again to another level. Fantastic. And the group's been around a while, so can't wait to see what they'll do next.
Yeah, you can get the link to their YouTube channel from their website too. So
well, thank you. Yep. Thank you both. Appreciate the stories. Love that just kept spinning on AM radio forever and ever and ever, and somebody just did not put it together. It just was like, I can't use the bridge again.
Somewhere there's a guy, it was his job to turn them off, and he missed that checkbox. It's like, oh,
crap. When will they finish the construction? Oh, it's been going the long way for many years now.
Groundhog Day.
Right?
Yeah. George, did you get that one transmitter over on 28th Street?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Didn't I? Didn't I?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Whatever. I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Well, Paul, WD9GCO, and Karen, my thanks to both of you. KD2GUT, if you have a comment or a question, you can apply it in the comments below. We would like to hear from you on these stories. And my thanks to my friends. We will do it again next week. Okay?
Yes, sir.
73 for now.
73.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.
Let's take a minute to talk about what I feel is the most beneficial deal in ham radio today. It's when you become a sustaining member of 100 Watts and a Wire. Here's how it works. When you donate $25 or more, you will become a sustaining member for a year. And during that year, you get discounts from participating businesses. It's a win-win-win. The show gets your support, you get the discounts, a little more money in your pocket for your next project, and those businesses can earn your trust. Visit 100wattsandawire.com, click the Sustaining Membership tab to learn how you can support the content you enjoy. And thanks.
All right, and welcome back, friends. This is the time of the show where we like to share some ham radio stories. I got to have pull Dave up here in just a second, but it sounds like we may be listening without headphones, so we may have to adjust to that. Steve is back, and how are things in the chat today? Boy, it's all moving so fast.
It's good. We're going back and forth, and it's just good chat in the chat room. And don't forget, if you want to win a HT, go to papaphilcan.com and enter, and you can win this dual band HT.
We put the link right there. Once a day, you can enter to win at the link that's in the chat. So go ahead and jump on that now. And the special event station launched this morning with 100 Watts and a Wire pre-show. I was very excited to make a very symbolic contact with Phil, who is the person we're all trying to help here. We made a contact on 40 meters, and then Worked for a little while. I worked 13 stations and then passed it off and to come here and do this. And I can see now reports are coming in that lots of hits are happening. They reset the K4P QRZ page. So now they can see what kind of volume people are coming. So please visit that site, K4P on QRZ, and find out what we're doing and listen for them and win that radio on Wednesday evening. We will give it away. And it's all because of Steve said, hey, give this away. And it's a little honey. We just give a little to get you involved to go to the website and consider it. We've got a ham we're going to meet today. And I'd love for you. I'm going to start you out talking to him today. We're going to bring him in. And here he is. He's Dave. He's got his headphones in. Now we got it.
Hi,
it.
Dave.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Let's make sure we can't hear you yet, but we're patient. We're okay. That's okay.
While we get Dave here.
There he is. We might just have to turn down the YouTube if you have that running behind you. Steve, I have to run just down the hall for a second. Can you get us started with Dave, and I'll come and join you in just a minute. Dave, welcome to the show here. I'm going to leave you in good hands with Steve. Start your story off. I'll be right back.
Well, hi, Dave. How you doing today? Oh, we're still kind of getting things worked out there, and
that's okay.
We appreciate you being here, Dave.
Don't have to go too far, but yeah, it could be a Wi-Fi bandwidth type of issue. But we're patient enough. While
we're waiting on Dave here, thanks for having Becky on. That was a great interview. And,
I was afraid I was just sitting there like this.
And generated quite a bit of activity in the chat. And good. I'm like going, wow, I'm a classic ham.
You're vintage, baby. I'm classic ham, your classic ham station. I'm going to make a couple of those promos. Hey, Dave, are you all right? Let's see. We're freezing up just a little bit with Dave. That's okay. We had him on, and I noticed he was in and out a little bit. There you are. Talk for us a little bit, Dave. Let's see if we have you. You still copy us, Dave? Okay. Yeah, I don't hear you. Your video's okay. Your video's holding up, but your audio's still not passing. That's all right. He's got a story to share with us with his with a call sign, and we're seeing a lot of that now with
well, speaking of call signs, my coworker, he's put in for a vanity, and we kind of went back and forth. He started asking about my call sign and why it's what it is, and so then he kind of went back and forth, and so we kind of came up with a couple of them, and he submitted his went online to the FCC site and submitted it, and then the next day he amended it because he wanted to change the order. So
okay,
and it's good, and it's he liked the idea, and as our call signs is our identity. This is how we are known amongst our fellow amateurs, and so there's in a lot of cases there's some meaning to the call signs, and for most could be their initials or some other meaning, and
it's a tribute.
And then
in some cases,
then there's the tribute of keeping the call sign of a family member going on.
Right.
And in the cases of a lot of 1x2s, clubs will take a charter member or someone significant of that club and use their call sign as their club call sign after the person has became a silent key.
Let's see if we got Dave. Hey, Dave, your video even got a little bit better there. Let's hear you. No, still not getting the audio.
What's my call sign story? Oh, Marty wants to know my call sign story. There's an interesting one there.
We just can't pass the audio there. Yeah, why don't you tell your story? I have to run quickly down the hall, but I will be back. You hold down the fort, and I'll be right back with you, Steve.
So when I got my call, and when I became a novice in '76. The FCC wasn't as automated as it was. So my first call was Whiskey Alpha 6 Tango India Charlie, WA6TIC. Well. I grew up in Pasadena, and then there was a ham who had the call sign WA6TIC. He was in the process of renewing, and in the process the way I understood it, the FCC, when they renewed a call sign back in the day, they would take you out of the system, and then they put you back in. Well, while the original TIC was out of the system, my application was being processed, and then I was issued that call. So for a while in 1977, 1978, there was 2 WA6 TICs. And as a novice, it was not a big deal going over there. Then and then I got into 2 meters and started getting active in the LA Basin 2 meter community. All hell broke loose. Here I'm 18 years old, and people are just hammering me because, oh, you're a bootlegger. I go, no, I'm not. I got a license here. And I just got nailed. And it was It was pretty brutal. And then eventually I would go out into local ham fests, and people would, well, we're going to confront you and everything. They go, I pull out my license. I go, here it is. And they're like, jaws hit the floor. And it's like, yeah, you are for real. And then after a while, then they got onto my case about, well, you need to do something. I go, no, I don't need to do something, because this is what the FCC issued me. If you have a problem with it, you can contact. About 18 months later, I get a form letter that said, oh, by the way, we reissued you your call sign in error, and this is your new call sign, which was Whiskey Bravo 6 Uniform Delta India. And this letter will serve as your temporary authorization to operate with this new call sign, and then a new license will become. But the thing that got me, and it was a form letter. It's like, this happens a lot. So, and then since relocating from the 6 land here into 7, I felt that have your call sign match the call district that you're in, and shortened it up. And that's how W7UDI came about.
I love that story. Thanks for covering for me too.
Yeah, no problem.
This is the intersection of life and ham radio. So it's kind of like I got the infection in the eyes as I'm glamored there listening to the smart lady talk about publications. I'm like, okay, yeah, you look like you got hit in the face. A pillow
and then
fight.
You leave it to the classic ham.
Yeah, leave it to the classic hand to cover for me as the medication runs through my body at a quickened pace, and I have to, everything hurries up. So thank you, buddy. You've covered for me. Dave is in and out. We're going to try, we'll give it another shot here, and then we may have to move on to questions and work it out. But let's see if we can get the engineering proper there. W4JL, yeah, copy K0STH. Oh, crap.
Oh, man. But this is live
live.
YouTube.
It's beautiful.
This is what happens. And, we hope for the best. And
if I could do some puppeteering, I could hide. And if Dave just would talk, I'd be like, yes, W4JL.
Mike is not working. So,
yeah, I understand. Dave. We will work it out. We'll sort it out for you, buddy. Don't worry. We'll have you back, and we can help you. Maybe test it before the show. We're actually live streaming. I hope. Is anybody perusing the grounds of the Ham Expo? That started. So we were technically supposed to be streaming to our booth there, 100 Watts and Wire booth. So I hope people are there. Hello to all of you. And if it's your first time here with us, please write new in the chat. I'd love to meet you and say hello. A very friendly group of people. The YouTube channel started in September, but this is the flagship show that started in 2015.
September. It seems like yesterday. Time is flying.
I know. And we've got over 100 videos now, and it's just a lot of fun. But I find that this reminds me of the broadcast side of the radio career and the live interaction. I'm seeing people over in the chat now. And, John's new. There's John. Nice to meet you, John.
Thanks for being here, John.
It's good to have you. Everybody, welcome John in the chat there. It's good to have you here. Please look around. The playlists are shaping up. We've got Q&A. We're going to do that here. We'll start that in a few minutes, and then we'll probably wrap up the show. And don't forget about K4P, which is on the air now for the rest of the week. We've put a link into the chat. I think I can do it again if I didn't. Yeah, this is a Yaesu that was donated by Steve for the cause. It is a little honey to help bring people and it helps us raise awareness. There it is, the FT65RE. We're going to give that away on Wednesday evening, all in an effort to help raise awareness for a ham radio operator in need, in this case, Phil, AB8PR. And we kicked off things with him this morning in sort of the sentimental and nice sort of way to start the special event working. Phil, he's up in Michigan, so luckily we had a good copy on each other, and that's what we did. I see Alex is in the chat. Alex is a partner in the Spirit of Radio. We are both simulcasting and streaming out on Wednesday nights. We're going to be bringing in operators. You're going to get to see people operating, and definitely this week, this Wednesday evening, you'll see a bunch of people kind of coming in and working different bands, so that ought to be exciting. And that's what we know about that. Phil's actually in the chat. If you want to say hello to him, that's all good. And that's okay. The mic wasn't working either on Dave. We'll get his story for sure. We'll
get it all squared away. And if you do have a chance to work K4 Papa, if you can, spot him in the cluster. That way others can see where K4P is operating. And so if you get a chance, do that.
The QRZ page has a lot of information, resources. Yourself, you may be, having some sort of issues as well, and with regards to your kidneys. So we're basically trying to raise awareness to help people maybe find the one and get people to be tested who are living donors. Or it's a different scenario than the 5 list that he's currently on, waiting for someone. It's kind of a tough situation. You're almost waiting for someone to die to donate you a kidney, which may or may not work. The benefit to having a living donor is you can, these people can be tested in real time. You can schedule and have logistics, operations. If someone would pass away and say it worked out that it was a match for Phil, it's like, you got to get there within a certain amount of time. So if you can, poke around F4P on QRZ. There's some good links, information there. You'll learn about Phil, who's been a ham since 1971, and he needs our help. He's kind of on short time. He's headed for dialysis. We want to avoid that if possible. So if you can help, that'd be good. Well, looky here. This is the time.
It's question time,
where we pull out some questions, and I think we've got some good ones. And it's good, that people are. You can send your questions to us. You can put them in the chat. There's also a form that I can use here. I know there's a lot going on, especially with the special event. Let me put this in there. If you've got a question about anything ham radio related, I'll put a form in here. And if we don't get to your question today, which is likely, we can put it in the queue, though. We've got some already on tap. You should also know that Steve does not know these questions. I think it's very risky that he does not know what the questions are, does not even really want to know. And he doesn't feel stumped. For me, I need to know it and do all the research up front because, I want to, my fear is that I'll be like, 6.
Plus you want to see my initial reaction too.
4, I think there's a 4 in there. And you're like, no. So, we like to give it to, the question to Steve right on the fly. So these were not prepared ahead of time, except for me putting them into the queue. Let's start off with Mike. How should I handle rude operators on the air? I'm not afraid of these losers. I want to tell them off, but I don't want to lose my license. What can I do?
Polite society. And I have that same thing that I want to get in there and confront. The problem becomes is that they're baiting you, or they want to have that confrontation, and I don't give them that satisfaction. And so you could, if you want to try to debate, I've done it, and I've been.
Uh-oh, did you freeze up? You froze up on me? Or he's still thinking. This is the thing where he's going to come back, and it's going to buffer. And but let me talk about it. Hopefully Steve will join back a little bit. Rude operators. And when I first got my license and it came to HF, I'm going to drop Steve out just for a second. That way, if he does come back, I'll know he's at least moving and he's not startling on the screen there. When I first got started on HF, I thought, who are these guys? These D-bag nitwits. And you're like, you want to tell them off. You want to come back and confront them. And, over time you find out that it's not really worth it. You're not going to change their mind. You're not going to move them away. You want to do something. It's like you see the lady get robbed and you're like, hey, and you want to call like some police type of effort. Raleigh. I can't get that word out right now. Maybe the medication. Hollingsworth. The OO, and used to work with the FCC. He would say he's got a thing that's kind of in the ham radio realm of just spinning the knob, just kind of turn it away. And then I remember hearing about that. Many people would advise, just turn the knob. Well, and then you don't want to. You want to kind of fight them back because that's kind of a traditional way. But most times when you're getting QRM'd and people are giving you, issues on the air, you're hearing things that are not quite polite. Most of the time, if you ignore it, they go away. They want that engagement. So it's best if you can to ignore it. And I've come, speaking of Riley, I've heard that there are a lot of OOs, this OO program where people are listening and taking notes. And I'm a big fan and fascinated by triangulation, where multiple stations or 3 stations, they can take and swing their beams in directions and actually isolate a signal where it's coming. And I've listened to things during emergencies where people were interrupted or interrupting, and they would triangulate. And they could find that signal, and soon after it could knock on the door. And so I would just say, leave it alone if you can stand it. It's disgusting. There are some things on the radio that just disgust me. I can't stand it. But most of the time, I let it go. I know it's hard though. All right, look at this. Dave is back. Dave, I see you there. I just brought you up here, and we've got some minutes. Hey, I hear you.
Yeah, I had to change. I don't know what happened. It was working fine this morning on the computer. Now the computer mic don't want to work for some reason.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. This is good. This works all right. I'm glad you kept trying. And Steve lost the internet completely, so this is perfect. We can finish the show with your story. Whiskey for Juliet Lima. Let's talk a little bit about your story. Tell us about it.
Well, I at the ripe age of around 12, 13, 14 years old, I decided to go to a technical college here local. Now it's community college. It's got sports, believe it or not.
No.
But never would have believed a community college would have like softball, baseball teams here in my area, but it does now. But my dad always was interested in radio. He would work on people's CBs and stuff like that, new ham radio operators, and they kept going and saying, you ought to get into amateur radio. You ought to get into amateur radio. And with him being disabled, needing some help keeping doors open and stuff like that, I decided, hey, there's a class he's wanting to go to at the community college, technical college back then in the early 80s. And I thought, well, I'll just go with you. Back then we had to learn the code. Was not a huge problem for me. I had a little bit of a musical background from being in the band in school, so I picked up the code pretty quick. I passed my 5 words per minute code, got my novelist license, and I was wearing a path out to the mailbox because it ain't like now you go to the computer and pick up and look. Hey, my call's in there. I can play radio now. Back then we had to wait to the USPS man come by and dropped it in the mailbox. So I wore a path out to that mailbox when I found out I passed the test. And when it come, the original call, Kilo Bravo 4, Bravo Oscar Juliet, everybody called me Bojangles for the BOJ because Bojangles is a fancy, eating facility here in North Carolina in the Charlotte area. So I come running in the house with that, piece of paper in my hand. I'm a licensed amateur radio operator. I want to get on the air. We tuned up onto a 10-meter double bazooka antenna with the Heathkit 101 100 watts, and I started sending CQ with the straight key, and I talked to Ontario, Canada.
Wow.
So you can imagine, 12, 13-year-old kid, head got pretty big, and I was like, man, I like this. I really like this. So I worked and got my 13 words per minute and got general. After I got general, I sort of like threw the Morse code key away. I found a microphone.
Mm-hmm.
And I would mess with some of the code occasionally. Not all the time, just occasionally. I would mess with some code. And I decided to, play with it occasionally. And I decided I don't want to do code no more. I think I just want to use the microphone. Well, unfortunately, in 2015, I had acute myeloid leukemia show up. Matter of fact, showed up on the biggest day of amateur radio, well, the biggest weekend of amateur radio, the ARRL field day. I got a little sick, little sore throat. Friend of mine that was operating with me said, man, you need to go get checked out. So I just come on home that Saturday. Sunday morning I got up, couldn't hardly drink or anything. Ran to the hospital, and they tested me, and I had some counts all screwed up. White blood count high, all this. And they done a bunch of testing and come to find out I had AML. So when I come out, which they told me that I'd be there 3 months, and I said, no way. I can't be there 3 months. There ain't no way I can be here 3 months. I said, August the 1st. This is July the 1st when they're telling me this now. I said, August the 1st, my son starts playing football. I've got to be there somewhere on the football field to watch him start practicing. And the doctor said, good luck. Well, July the 31st of 2015 at 6:30 p.m., I left the hospital. So I got to take the football practicing and all that good stuff. I had to stay away from everybody because my immune system was very weak. Well, in 2016, the ARRL done the National Parks on the Air. And with me being sort of contained and confined to the house, besides doctor appointments, I started chasing. And I chased parks, and I chased parks, and I chased parks. Love it, still love it today. The Parks on the Air, Worldwide Flora and Fauna program, already now into the summits on the air, been going out activating summits, chasing summits. Matter of fact, I just worked, got 2,000 points to be considered the double Shack Sloth Award. So
nice.
I've got that just this morning before the show got started good. So got my 2,000 points there. But I'm working on getting the mountain goat. I'm a long way away. I just got over about 106 points for activating on summits on there. I would really hate to see how many parks that I've really put on there in North, South Carolina, Tennessee, and we're fixing to start hitting up around Virginia and hopefully Georgia and Florida this year is what my plans are.
How did you go from Bojangles to W4JL?
All right. That's a good story. I applied for a vanity call, W4DWL, like most people do with their, initials. And I got it. And at the same time, my dad, W4JL, was N4GOQ at the time. He applied for W4JL. And unfortunately, Father's Day of 2008, my dad passed away. I was an extra. My sister's a ham. Lives out towards Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. She's just a technician. So I was the only one that could keep the W4JL call in the family. So I applied for the W4JL call, and now it's staying here. Hopefully one day one of the kids will come along and keep it on going, I hope. It's a very recognized call. My dad was big with the Shelby Ham Fest, which used to be one of the biggest on the southeast coast here. So, a lot of people remembers W4JL.
That's a good call sign. Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about your dad's passing. I think it's really nice and sweet when you hear these stories. It means something to you to carry that forward. Can you talk about that a little bit?
It really means a lot for me, especially the carry. For my dad he was more of a CW fan than side band. And in 2016, on March the 8th, I got a little surprise in the mailbox. Got a Kier sent to me. So I started back with CW.
Oh, good.
Now, I much rather do CW than pick up the microphone. So just the whole turnaround block now. But he was big with CW, stuff like that. But when I get out there and get on the air and start activating and start doing CW, it brings back a lot of memories. And then last year, unfortunately this year, I done a benefit barbecue for a family, so I missed the North Carolina QSO party. But last year I went out and done the North Carolina QSO party and done the expedition style. I put 3 counties, I activated 3 different counties in 3 different parks on the air and won the North Carolina Expedition Award for last year for 2020. So I got a plaque that's hanging on the wall, and I can see that stuff like that. This makes me drive more. I've got my DXCC all mode, single sideband, and CW. Matter of fact, I think I've cleared digital now. I've just not applied for it.
How's your health doing these days?
Well, so far, I'm a little overweight, as usual. The doctor tells me that all the time. You're a little overweight, got to lose some of that, which I did get a little lazy. I was walking a lot, and I've, stepped back and wasn't walking. I wasn't on any sugar drinks, and now I've got to where sweet tea is back to my favorite drink. So I'm trying to get away from that to drop a little weight. But as far as everything else, it's good. I still have ankylosing spondylitis, which is hereditary, and that's what had my dad handicapped. And it's fusion of the spine. So my spine, my neck, I can't turn my neck good because of the fusion in my neck, and all that's done natural. But I still get out here and go. I'm not going to stop. That's one trait my dad showed me: never stop, never give up. So, that's what I do. The AML tried to kick me twice, unfortunately, but it didn't succeed. First time we done a chemo treatment, and I got put in remission in August the 22nd of 2016. December the 23rd of 2016, it showed back up. So I had to do a stem cell transplant. And my other son from my first marriage, which is out fighting the wildland fire now in Georgia. Yeah, we're both firefighters. So he's on a assignment out in Georgia fighting the wildland fire. But he stepped up to do a stem cell donation. And we done a stem cell transplant June 22nd, 2017. And pretty much his stem cells are running my body, and we're still good as far as health-wise. So
that's almost a story in itself right there. Thank goodness for your son.
Oh, yeah. And especially he was 17 at the time. So you can imagine a 17-year-old senior in high school step up to do a stem cell transplant. I got 2 heroes. My dad was a hero keeping me in amateur radio, and now my son is a hero that stepped up and has kept me where I can play amateur radio. So I've had an interesting life. A lot of people ask me too, so, well, why didn't you get mad when your cancer come back? I'm like, what's the use to get mad? That's just another speed bump in the road to me. Got to stay positive. That's one thing. I appreciate what you're doing with the K4P also, and how you help out other amateur radios in the communities, different states and different places. That's great. I tried to do it back too. There was a slew of people helped me during my, ordeal with the cancer, done fundraisers. So now when I get a chance, I do all I can do for a benefit for the other people. So,
well, Dave, I've got a note from your doctor right here. So, just got the email. You got to get walking in the parks. Activate a couple parks. I don't know what that means, but maybe you understand. More walking in the park for the POTA. Whatever he's saying there, I don't understand. And you got to come off that sweet tea, brother. You got to get off that sweet tea. That's hard for a guy down south. That's
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of
Oh,
in
yeah.
your blood. That's what your blood is, right?
Yeah, the sweet tea and Sundrop. You may have never heard of a Sundrop,
No.
but it's a very sugary soda,
Oh, boy.
drink. So, yeah, I got to get off of them. But I'm working on that. I've cut way back. I'm down about 1 cup of tea or 1 Sundrop a day, and back to the water. So I'm getting there.
Okay.
And getting out on the summits now has really helped. A little slow. I can't go fast as some
That's
of these
okay.
boys up the mountain, but
Okay.
hey, I get up the top of the mountain and set up and play radio. I'm having
Yeah.
fun. So,
Well, long may you run, brother. I appreciate your effort today trying to get back connected here, and then you figured it out on your end. You went a different way. That's the ham way, isn't it? You figure out another way.
Just like that's another thing. It brings up. You got to find out something different. If it don't work this way, keep trying something else.
That's right.
So,
I kept seeing you'd pop in and out. You'd pop in and out. Next thing you know, thumbs up. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, have a great weekend. Best to you and your family out there, and be in touch, okay?
All right. I'll keep in touch. I appreciate all the podcasts, your live videos. I try to catch them all as much as I can. And it's always a pleasure to catch you on there. Always. I think we've made contact several times. I don't have the logbook up to do a search, but it's been several times, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Take care. 73.
73.
All right. And Steve, look at this guy. He decides, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I don't want to answer your stupid questions.
Oh,
You froze
man.
up and you had this look like, and I was like, is he really thinking about it this long?
I was like, really? I started seeing the circles, and I'm like, oh man, I was just starting to get on a roll. But I saw some of the chats.
I went on to the root operators. I mean, my hope was to get us out.
Just don't engage them, or because they're looking like a fool, and you don't want to look like a fool.
Let's do a couple, just because I think let's just do a couple. I want it to end up in an hour's time, but you know how that goes. And now we've got the luxury of time. We can go on, but this is one of my favorite parts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. DX Star. What a name. Your parents were so creative with that. DX Star. Does it matter what size coax I use for jumper cables in the shack?
No. I'd go with the only thing that matters is I wouldn't use like RG58 if you're going to run full legal power. It's just that cable's going to kind of heat up. But RG8X that's the interconnect cable I would use because it's relatively small. It can handle higher power, and it's flexible and easy. Interconnecting everything with RG8 or 213. Yeah, that's great, but it becomes physically, unmanageable. So
stiff. I used to think this way, and this about me. I used to have and this was a question I had years ago. I thought that bigger is better, and it turns out that bigger is nice, but in that short run, it really didn't.
It doesn't matter. No, it when you start getting long runs and things like that, then that the loss in the cable becomes a factor. But for interconnects, jumpers in between, I have RG8X in between the radio and the amp and other sundry accoutrements. But between my amp and my antenna switch, I just happen to have RG8. But I'd be just as comfortable using 8X between the amp and the antenna switch.
Oh, there you go. DX Star. Hope that helps.
Nice handle. Love it.
DX Star.
Rockstar. DX Rockstar.
We'll take one more here and wrap things up. Chase. I think my neighbor has grow lights. I have a loud buzz on my receive signal, mostly after 5 p.m. I want to be a good neighbor. How should I address it?
Just you have a chat with them and ask them. It's
that's
kind of
one.
That's a tricky one, but it's grow lights are notorious for being RFI generators, and it's just one of those things. If they can delay putting it on, or saying, hey, I'm getting interference from your grow lights, and a lot depends on how cool you are with your neighbor. If, you got a decent relationship, if not, then it just gets pretty tricky. But that's a tough one.
Could go down to mind your own business kind of thing. And grow lights don't necessarily mean like they're growing weed. They could be working with hydroponics, or they could be doing something in their garage.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess trying to figure out a schedule. This is just a tricky one. It could lead you down to mind your own business trail. And I
have a neighbor, his shop, which is not too far from my shop here, and I think his LED shop lights or his chargers for his all his equipment. He's a carpenter and does carpentry, and he does a lot of work in his shop there in the evenings, and it kind of tears up 80 meters for me. And it's one of those things I just know if the lights are on in the shop, it's like, okay, it's going to be a little tough night for me. But it's just one of those, you kind of have to work around it. But I've heard stories that grow lights can be really, really bad as far as generating RFI.
I think the spirit of wanting to be a good neighbor is going to serve you best there, Chase, to kind of, establish a dialogue and see if that works out for you. I think that'll help. All right, Steve, I'm going to be wrapping up, but I wanted to poke into, I'm going to share a screen here. K4P is on the air.
Nice.
And they reset the lookups. And we went and made the first QSOs this morning. I worked Papa Phil. He was in Michigan, still is. And I ran 13 calls, and we have 605 lookups. This was reset this morning, so that's good. We want you to learn. Getting some traction, getting on the air. We've only been on the air probably about 2 hours now. So there's a dedicated team behind the scenes who have put aside ego and any sort of me, or I, whatevers, and are just pushing forward with momentum to get the word out here. Phil probably won't be the last person we help. And, maybe if you're struggling with something, you reach out and contact us. We want to raise awareness. We can't. The heavy lifting comes from somebody being moved enough to get tested and potentially be a match to help save somebody's life. In this case, we talked about living donors a bit before, and there's some good information here. There's the video. There is a challenge for you. Wednesday night, we will celebrate anyone who puts this video on their QRZ page, and we're trying to work 50 states with this video. Check out the video. It's really well done. You meet Phil, his kids. He's got grandchildren, and he's just trying to live his life a little bit longer and a little bit better and not be on dialysis, which kind of changes the game for you. So thank you for that. And listen for those stations on the air. There's a schedule at the bottom of this page. Let me go. If you go there, and you'll see a sample. But right in here is the calendar. And we're trying to keep that up to date. I'm the kind of guy who has young children and needs to kind of flip-flop and pivot, call audibles. And sometimes I get big blocks of time. I'm like, oh, wow, how did this happen? So I'm going to jump on as much as I can. But it's very exciting and needed. So it's called The Spirit of Radio. This is a live stream I do Wednesday evenings with Alex. And we are trying to raise awareness to help hams in need. In this case, Bill. All right, enough said. Y'all be good now, because this was one of those juggling days.
Yeah.
Steve's contract must be time for negotiation, because he's like, oh, you want to do questions, do you?
Poof, poof.
And there he goes.
Bye-bye.
And then Dave suddenly reappears. I got it.
It all worked out.
It all works out, because I had to do my own little thing. You might have noticed I was putting on my dancing shoes down here. I was like,
getting ready to dance.
And I'm going to show you a new dance. Can't see my feet, but they're really moving quickly.
They're moving.
Hello to everyone in the chat, especially our new folks who stopped by. We had a new friend that came by today. If you're new, welcome. Subscribe.
For being here. Thank you for
the bell. All those great things. We have a ham there in Oscar Hotel 7. Oscar Hotel 7, yeah. It's Tame. I call him Tame. He's in Finland. And boy, it can get cold there. We also have a ham in Amsterdam. So you got the Netherlands. We've got some DX just in a chat alone. So I appreciate it. Who comes by? I want to go get on the air. I know Steve might want to do that. We all have things that we do, but we're going to be on for the next week. So listen for K4P on the air. You'll hear a lot of stations. Go work them. Go work them. It's a good thing. What do we miss, Steve? We got our net tomorrow night. It'll be a little different. I'll be calling K4P. The fellows will be calling and taking your check-ins across probably 3 bands tomorrow. So you can listen to that. We'll have like 4 stations on the air tomorrow evening. That will be cool.
Yeah, and 20 meters should stay open a little bit longer than normal because this weekend we have our time change here in the States, and for the states that participate in time change, the flip-flop. So we're springing forward and looking forward to keeping 20 open for a little while. We'll just slog away at it.
I should also say, I will stream if I take the air and start to call for like an hour or whatever. I will start streaming on the channel. It'll be a different kind of notice. It might look like this. To let you know I'm on the air, I'm going to go on the air and just sort of operate. And it'll be outside the show. Steve, you can see what that is right there. My mast.
Your mast and your hex beam.
Got the hex beam there. And I've got a little crank, whatchamacallit there, that kind of lowers it down into place. Like a winch. That's what it's called.
A winch. Yep, I like that.
Yeah, it works. It's not super high, but it still works.
It works.
Well, 73, Steve, I'll see you around the way. We'll be back here tomorrow night. 73 to everybody in the chat. Thank you for coming by. Work that station. Get on the air. That's what it's all about. We need to get on the air. Thanks to Becky for stopping by, and Paul and Karen. And enjoy the expo if you're watching from the expo.
And thank you, Dave, for being here too. So
thank you, Dave, for sharing that story. That was interesting. Everybody's got a story, Steve.
And thank you being a fellow firefighter. So.
Yes, and that's double generation. I don't know what his dad did, but him and his son both.
Yep.
73, guys. Take care of yourselves.
73, y'all.
And each other. And by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsindawire.com.